Okay, I wanted to make a short video about how to assemble your designs on black mat board. First, I want to say that you do want to use black mat board, not foam core. Foam core is very hard to cut and will create a lot of misery. And it's really better quality-wise to use a piece of mat board, so it's going to be a single weight like this. And what you're going to do here, I actually have my layout. I have my tools, which I've already cut my board. I've got a triangle, and yes, that's one place where the triangle is very helpful. I do use a box cutter for cutting board, X-Acto knife for cutting my paper, and I do recommend that. You can use an X-Acto knife to cut this board, but it's going to take 3 or 4 strokes and it will dull your blade pretty fast. Beyond that, if you do have a box cutter around house, just make sure you have the clip off the part that's been used and have a nice sharp blade. The pencil I used, just a HB, and you can see here what I've done is I've marked a grid, and it's a grid of 12 squares set to a vertical format, although theoretically I could just turn this. You could call it a horizontal format. Yes, you could do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep it in its vertical setting, and I do have the handout, the guide showing the dimensions. So your illustrations are going to be 3 inches square. 1/4 inch is what I put in between. If I indicated a 1/2 inch, that's fine. You can actually go with that approach and put a little bit more air between your designs. Now, and then 2 inches on the outside on all 4 sides, as you can see here. Important thing about this is to get your corners square. This is why I use a triangle. It's just, and you can see if I line that up, I've got a perfect 90-degree angle in on every part of my grid. I have this. So yes, I made a grid. Now this, I don't actually draw the grid on the back to do this mounting, and you won't need to do that. I do it here so you could see it more clearly. And I actually have it drawn on the top of the board, which I'll show you here. And then you see over here, I've actually started laying out, I actually used a student's pieces, and I've started laying out a potential design here that I could use. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to test out, as you cut your pieces out, number one, try to keep them at the 3 by 3 inches. Use your triangle if you have one. I really highly recommend you get a triangle. And just test to make sure that all your corners are square as you do this, and measure each one. So take your ruler and check as you go. I think from what I've seen of the examples so far, you're all using the 3 by 3 crop, but just measure. These were actually oversized a bit because I actually printed them out. They're like 3 1/8. So I'm actually trimming them down a bit. And your next step would actually be to flip them over, and you would glue these. Now I'm not going to glue these just to save a little time here. It's really up to you what adhesive you want to use. Rubber cement is probably the best. That does come in our kit too, a little can of rubber cement. But you can, although this makes a mess, you could use something like this. Just if you do use a spray mount, the school actually doesn't allow it on the school property, but you can use it at home. Just make sure I would actually suggest the garage, a piece of cardboard, or the basement somewhere, because this stuff will just get over everything. If I'd sprayed this right here, it would be all over my board, and it's a mess to clean up, and then you need something like mineral spirits to clean it off. So just a word of warning on that. I actually do use the spray. I actually go out in my garage, large piece of cardboard, and just spray, and just come back down to my basement studio and mount things down, because rubber cement will take a little time to dry. Rubber cement is very nice. So the other thing you have is Art Tech. If you get the kit, you're going to see those Art Tech sheets. They're actually a glue sheet. You could use that as well. It's a double-sided glue sheet. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to place your images on your board. Now I'm actually, just wanted to show something. I don't have them all cut out yet. But as you do your design, you notice how I have, put those back together, I've separated the organic biomorphic from the mechanical, except I didn't do it here, so let's change that. Let's push this over there. Maybe put this down here. And then maybe this one should go up in a corner like that. So try and mix and match. Don't put all your organic and geometric designs together. Try to do a variation between hybrid, geometric, and biomorphic. We're not interested in doing like rows of each category. What we're really interested in doing is seeing the rhythm and contrast between the different types of designs. It'll actually make it a much more pleasing arrangement. And so once you have your design set, just leave, you can flip them over in place and glue them, or you can glue them one at a time, and you can say, okay, that was row 3. So if I go over here to my board, I'm actually placing that first one there. I often start up in the corners, like so, glued into position, and then just work my way across. I may actually, I usually like to do that. I could center one in between after putting the first 2 in, but I like to use this grid. And you can see here, that grid tells me whether an image is oversized, undersized. If you find an image is oversized and you've already glued it, or if it's just off, go ahead and glue it on the board, because what you can do is you can actually, when you have everything glued onto the board, you can take a triangle or a ruler and actually run your X-Acto knife on the edges. And I may actually do a separate video just to kind of show finishing touches for that. And what you'll hand in what you'll be submitting is a photograph of your entire board. I recommend, I'm just going to turn this horizontal, and here's what I recommend. Try to get the image not distorted, meaning in kind of clear the area around it. What I'm looking for is a nice straight-on image. Look at the edge of your board and just go ahead and I would take 2 or 3 photographs, make sure that you got one that's nice and sharp. And that will be good for submission. You can just put that, submit it to the submit button for the presentation.